And so getting into the second part of this lecture, what is phys ed? So it's defined as education through movement, and the importance of movement skills will allow people to adopt lifelong habits of participation. It could be sports, it could be lifestyle activities or walking habits and going to the gym. Just developing a range of skills that could be applied across the lifespan. So it's not just key competitive performances in the elite level. It could be just a functionality and just creating those habits to maintain your health from day to day and week to week. So it engages students' knowledge, understanding, skills and values to participate in healthy physical activity. And it's continued to evolve since the early 1900s. So it used to be phys ed used to be very structured and army focused, with a range of drills, and it's evolved over a number of years to be a lot more game focused. So you might have read some of the literature over the last 10 to 20 years. Phys ed has really evolved to, rather than structured skill drills, so maybe outlining a topic, providing a demonstration, doing a skill drill and practicing it. Phys ed's really evolved to now have a number of approaches, such as using games to develop a range of skills. So playing games and then reflecting on some of the movements and positions and rules and those sort of things. And there's also another type of model that's really come into play is a sport education model. So getting students involved in a specific sport, like a tournament, a bit of a mock season, and then it really simulates that sort of sport play, and then you can reflect on skills and those sort of things. So that's a little bit how phys ed has evolved and the most recent trends in phys ed teaching. The importance of teaching quality. I've got secondary school there. I'll just cross that one out. The importance of teaching quality phys ed at school. And you can see here that recent data from last year suggested just 18% of children and adolescents weren't meeting the recommended Australian guidelines of 1 hour of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day. So that's quite concerning. And with this level of inactivity, some studies and reports have found that can account for almost 2 million deaths worldwide and 3% of total healthcare costs in developed countries. So not meeting those recommended guidelines of 1 hour of moderate to vigorous physical activity. Also of note, teaching adolescent skill movement encourages lifelong physical activity habits and skills. So that's not just adolescents, that's children as well. Those habits to last a lifetime. Participation in physical activities has also been associated with cognitive and social developments, and it's also useful to counteract a modern culture of convenience. There's a lot of sitting, there's a lot of indulgence and consumption of high energy Western diets, which is saturated fat and processed sugar. By encouraging more activity, that's going to encourage more energy expenditure rather than sitting in the car and going to school and then sitting at a desk all day and then going home to sit and watch TV. So the importance of quality phys ed there. Sorry about that secondary school there. That's both primary and secondary school, so a bit of a typo. Reasons for quality physical education, the top 10 reasons, and you can look through this resource. I think it's fantastic. Lamasula and Corbin in 2006. So regular physical activity, as I said, helps counteract disease, helps promote lifetime wellness. So those habits that I talked about can be applied from week to week and really promote lifetime wellness. Obesity as well, so by increasing that energy expenditure. Providing unique opportunities for activities, self-management and motor skills, and some of these could be functionality as well, if there's been an injury or something like that. The importance of quality physical education can help train and overcome some of those deficiencies or weaknesses that might have developed from an injury. Promotes learning, It's widely endorsed and helps educate the total child. So you hear a lot of in the school system, there's a focus on numeracy and literacy, those type of things. Well, there's also a high importance to develop physical literacy, how to be able to move and develop a range of physical skills. Something to think about, and a couple of quotes here. Intelligence and skill can only function at the peak of their capacity when the body is healthy and strong. So you can imagine that if you're feeling strong and all your physical functionings are in order, then you're going to feel a lot more mentally strong as well. So there's a couple of quotes there. The other one, if our bodies grow soft and inactive, that will undermine our capacity for thought, for work, and for the uses of those skills vital in an expanding and complex world. So with those quotes in mind, there actually has been a little bit of literature lately linking physical activity to academic performance in schools as well. So you can just see how vital this subject area is. Phys ed versus sport and physical activity, and you can see a little bit of this in Module 1, and you can just see that there's ranges of subcategories within physical education. There's sport, which comes under phys ed, there's athletics, there's fitness, gymnastics. Outdoor education is actually under physical education. It could be ball handling aspects, dance, and aquatics. So it's quite diverse, physical education. There's ranges of skills that can be developed. And it shows how broad and the depth of skills that can be developed, and the importance of trying to develop motor skills and a range of other skills necessary. Things such as aquatics are also quite valuable for, it could be saving lives, life-saving aspects and those type of things as well. Once again, I'm not sure why that, I'll just cross that out. Where are we? Alright, for some reason it got secondary in there a couple of times. So what PE skills will you be teaching your school students? Well, at infancy, at the rudimentary movement phase, there's kicking, reaching, rolling, and basic play. But these two over here, this one, early childhood and later childhood, adolescence, this will be most relevant to the primary and secondary school setting. So in early childhood, early childhood, that might be your early years at primary school, there's a bit more of a focus on locomotor and object control activities. And then this moves in at later childhood and adolescence to sports skills and specialized movements, invasion type games, so little ball games, it could be like something like handball, or it could be soccer, your netball type activities, squash, tennis activities, badminton, and you've got your striking and throwing sports like your cricket, baseball, softball, and those type of skills. So by this stage, the fundamental motor skills are starting to develop, and students really want to be tested into sort of competitive type activities. They also want to be able to understand and apply a range of different rules and regulations for sports. So once again, apologies for that typo up there. Characteristics of quality physical educators. So there needs to be a large percentage of time on activities, and you don't want a lot of sitting around because that defeats the purpose of physical education. You want to minimize the management transition time, using strategies, so allowing activities to flow from one to the next, keeping students on task, having meaningful physical activity, so that they can be related to their everyday lives. It could be translating some of the activities to recess or lunchtime. It could be translating to the sports setting. So by picking up skills, and they can be like, well, I might try participating in a specific sport outside hours or after school activities. They need to be suitable, and we'll talk about suitability of how to actually understand your students to apply inclusive strategies for your students so no one misses out. Be accountable for learning. Management skills. It could be groupings, looking at boundaries and those sort of things. Strong interpersonal skills and guidance and planning skills. So you obviously need to be able to communicate with your class with strong communication to be able to deliver what you actually want, what you have planned, and the guidance and planning skills is very important, which you'll find out in week 2. The challenges to teaching phys ed in schools, and you can have a look at this. This is within one of the readings, Jenkinson 2010 down the bottom there. Some of the challenges, I've divided these into school-related challenges, teacher-related challenges, training teacher-related challenges, so your pre-service teachers, and student-related challenges. So by understanding some of the challenges, you're more likely going to be able to tailor your learning to overcome these. When you are teaching PE, or even if you become a health and PE specialist within your school, it's good to be aware of some of these at a very early stage to be able to overcome some of the challenges. So school-related challenges first off, it could be access to and the amount of facilities. So how many facilities does your school have? And that's going to influence what sort of activities you can deliver. It could be lack of time. So you might be teaching across a range of other subjects. It could be a focus on literacy and numeracy. And you might have to teach across a range of subjects and have a little amount of time to teach PE within your workload, or whatever it may be, other commitments, staff meetings, other planning. You might be planning camps or who knows what. Funding, timetabling, the location of the school. So that will all impact on your physical education delivery. The timetabling, you could be scheduled at the very last session on a Friday, just like we do for ECU101, but you might be scheduled within the school system where the students have been there all week long, and it's after lunch on a Friday. That's going to impact on teaching phys ed. Teacher-related challenges. So colleagues could be focused on other subjects and see phys ed as less important, and that might restrict. It could be funding and opportunities for PE-related teaching and opportunities, past PE experiences as teachers, and some people. This is why we've asked you in the discussion board to really highlight some of your past PE experiences, because sometimes those experiences really influence the way you're going to teach. You might have had some bad experiences throughout your school, bad PE classes, and that might have influenced your confidence or development of certain skills, or there might be anxiety about certain activities, those sort of things. Large class sizes will influence your teaching practice, how you're going to group them, is there enough equipment, engaging students. Then we go over the student-related challenges, and there's a lot of sedentary opportunities in our modern lives. So overcoming those, students develop habits. They prefer to sit around, prefer to not get active in your class. And due to that, they can have low fitness levels. And you've got peer support and peer pressures. Peer pressures in the class, and maybe to act up or not be active or whatever it may be, and motivation and laziness issues. And then lastly, we have pre-service teacher related challenges. So when you're actually out there teaching health and PE, it's very important to have the right mentor support. We'll just move that. There's a study I did a few years ago that found that wet weather plans were very sparsely used in the school setting for pre-service teachers. So when it did become wet, what was the plan? What's the backup venue, and what activities is your activity that you have planned reliant on being indoors and sheltered? You need to adjust to different teaching environments and being flexible as a pre-service teacher in different schools and different year levels that you haven't experienced before. You are generally, the students know that you are inexperienced and sometimes you're straight out of school and could be a bit younger, so dealing with that level of respect from the students. And other things such as time demands. As a pre-service teacher, we're actually looking at stress at the moment of pre-service teachers, and some are working full-time, and you might have family demands, you might have children to take care of, and just having those time demands to plan. So something to become familiar with for the unit, the Australian curriculum, health and PE, and you can see how the strands, so you've got number one there, personal, social and community health, and number two, movement and physical activity. So becoming familiar with each of the levels of these. You've got the sub-strands, being healthy, safe and active, communicating, interacting for health and well-being, contributing to healthy and active communities, and then your second category of substrands, moving our body, understanding movement, learning through movement. And the big international conference, which is coming up in Adelaide for health and PE, is basing a lot of the presentations around these key curricular themes. So that'll be a good one to get along with if you're around Adelaide or want some strong professional learning. And then you've got all the focus areas, and we're going to be covering a range of these areas throughout each of the weeks over ECU101. So become familiar with the curriculum. Some of the activities we'll do will link to some of the strands and focus areas through each of the levels. Getting towards the end of week one, a little lecture here and some of the key online resources for you. These will be useful to be designing and developing your unit plans and lesson plans. The ACHPA site, so that's the national site, and that can direct you to a range of resources and state level guidelines and a range of other aspects for designing your lesson plans at achpa.org.au. You've got the United States equivalent, which is NASPE or NASPA in the United States. The other equivalent in the United States is AFID. And then you've got a really good one for lesson ideas and lesson plan development and those sort of things at the PE Central site. And of course, as I mentioned, there's a link for the Australian Curriculum Health and Phys Ed site there. So that's something you type in, and just making sure when you are designing your lesson plans that they're links to the level that you want to be teaching. Also, if you are based in the Northern Territory, a good one for further professional learning and development, you can check on the achpant.com.au website, and you can see what's happening in the NT. Being enrolled in Charles Darwin University, you might want to see what's happening in the Northern Territory for further learning events. I've also got some other relevant viewing there. I'll pop those up after I upload these couple of lectures for this week. Just provides a bit of emphasis on why PE is important. The second one there is very US based, and you've got a bit of a spiel from Mike Hussey, the former Australian cricketer there, just to really get a picture of what's happening and the importance of PE. So once again, welcome along to week one, and looking forward to working with you throughout the unit with Janice Ford, who's also taking the ECU students.